Total War is turning 25 this year, and I think that now is the perfect time, especially since we have an announcement for the next title coming up on December 4th. I feel like now would be the perfect time to have a look back over something that I feel like has been a major cornerstone of the marketing of Total War games. The trailers. My name is PeterCap, although you probably know me better as Warman. I am the founder of the Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD mod, and this is something I've wanted to work on for a while now. Little known fact, I actually have a BFA in film. I have a film school background. I like to think I'm qualified to talk about these trailers from a filmmaking perspective and just talk about like which ones I think hold up and which ones don't. So there's a bunch of ground rules we need to go over before I get into this. So you might have noticed in the title that this is the non-Warhammer edition of this list. We are only going to be talking about the historical titles, the saga titles, pretty much anything that isn't Warhammer. And the reason why is simple. There are a lot of good Warhammer trailers. If I were to put them all together, the Warhammer stuff would outshine everything else. And I want to give the historical side of Total War its due. So yeah, expect a Warhammer version of this later on. Probably when Warhammer 3's development is over. Secondly, we are only going to be talking about cinematics or in-engine trailers. So anything that has a HUD is not going to be talked about here. Another thing I need to go over is how I'm going to be grading these trailers. I'm going to be grading these trailers on two metrics. One, how good the trailer is from a cinematic standpoint, from a technical level. This is pretty straightforward. We're going to be talking about how these trailers are edited, how they're shot, like what the music is. All these things are very important. The second criteria, and this is going to be what disqualifies a lot of trailers from being on this list, how well these trailers sell the game they're trying to sell. And this is an important aspect of these trailers too, because as enjoyable as these trailers are, we need to remember that they are selling a game. And the best Total War trailers can do both. They can be well-made, basically short films, while also selling the game. To illustrate what I mean by this, I want to give a Warhammer example. And this is also going to be a Warhammer trailer that's probably not going to be on the Warhammer edition. So I feel like this is the best one to talk about. Let's talk about the Warhammer 2 announcement cinematic. This is the perfect example of a trailer that does both things. Besides the fact that this is a well-animated, edited, and cinematic trailer, it also tells you everything you need to know about the game. It shows you all four races, even if one of them's a cameo. There's a lot of emphasis on these rituals, there's a lot of stuff featured about the Vortex. We see everyone fighting over these ritual sites, and then like the camera pans out and we see like all these continents and all this stuff hinting at the scale and scope of the title. This sums up everything about what's going to be in the game months before we get any details on it. This tells you everything you need to know. You see what I mean? For a trailer for a game, this is very important, and something that cannot be overlooked. Lastly, and this should go without saying, these are just my opinions. Realistically, I'm going to be pissing off someone with where I place a trailer, so understand that these are just my opinions. So without further ado, let's get into this. Number 10. This trailer is actually surprisingly strong, and weirdly enough, I think it's the best of the Thrones of Britannia trailers. This trailer is surprisingly interesting. This is the Viking faction of the game, and I was expecting something kind of like, brutal, like this is like Danelaw and all that stuff, but they subvert expectations in a way that actually works. We see a king that used to be a slave, and we get a good sense of this guy's headspace and what he's trying to do with his kingdom. It's, I feel like, a great way to subvert what to expect from this. And it kind of summarizes the character of this faction rather well. From a cinematic standpoint, this is pretty solid. We get a good mix of like fight scenes and non-fight scene stuff. I like the way the music swells with the ending siege going on here. And the acting goes surprisingly hard, especially with the final line.
And we will not be broken!
So yeah, all these things lead to a surprisingly solid trailer, good enough to be number 10. Number 9. Attila has some interesting trailers. In general, I like the idea that they're trying to tie it into the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. This trailer, I feel like, is the best when it comes to selling, like, the vibe of the setting of what the game is going to be about. You get a vibe that this is a very apocalyptic, dreary time that's just getting worse and worse. I feel like this trailer conveys that the best. I feel like it's also good for kind of, like, showing the mindset of why these Germanic tribes were migrating in the first place. I feel like it accurately conveys that context and circumstance. It's good at selling the vibes of the game. It's very well animated, like, the music is pretty solid with this as well. There are a lot of trailers for Rome 2 and Attila that try and go for the pathos with this, and this is one of the few that actually kind of succeeds with it. And you find yourself rooting for this guy by the end of the trailer, even if you know that he's basically making a deal with the devil and not realizing it. Seriously, if you know, you know, the Romans were assholes. So yeah, a surprisingly solid trailer. Number 8. This trailer is very solid. It does everything I would want from a trailer like this. We see everything we need to see. There's emphasis on naval battles. There's a lot of emphasis on the changing times during what was the colonial period. We see a good amount of battles of gunpowder and muskets and all these clashes. We also see a lot of emphasis on the world map, hinting at the sheer scale of what this title was going to be. This trailer is shot very great. In particular, I like the opening naval battle. Like, the way this trailer uses cannonballs as like a transitionary tool is very, very solid. I think it just accurately conveys everything to expect from this game. And just so it's clear, I've never actually played Empire, okay? So the fact that I was still able to enjoy this trailer to the point of putting it on this list, that has to count for something here, you know what I mean? Number 7. This is a comparatively obscure Medieval 2 trailer. I'm sure people are expecting another trailer to be on this list from this game. Like, I know when people think of Medieval 2 trailers, they think of the E3 trailer. But to be honest, I think the Gold trailer does everything the E3 trailer does, except way better. It's way more broad in scope. The music absolutely goes hard. This is the only trailer that integrates the campaign map. Again, this trailer summarizes everything that the game is about. We see a lot of brutal footage on the battle map, we see stuff on the campaign map, there's hints of the Crusades, there's hints of the exploration, there's hints of everything. It conveys everything the game is about with no dialogue, just action. It is an action-packed, fierce trailer that I feel like is Medieval 2 at its best. Number 6. Age of Charlemagne, basically Medieval 2.5, let's be honest. I feel like out of all the Total War games or expansions that are based on a specific historical figure, like, this trailer is the best of those. Like, seriously, this trailer is actually surprisingly strong and conveys a lot about what the expansion's bringing in a very short span of time. Like, we have this interesting voiceover from, I think, the Pope, which is weirdly sardonic in places.
Who gave you the right to rule? It wasn't the people.
So we get an interesting vibe from Charlemagne here as a warrior king who's trying to grow an empire and carve out a domain for himself. We get hints in the various factions that are going to be in the game, and we actually get a surprising amount of drama with this. There's even hints of the war weariness system with Charlemagne looking pretty exhausted here. I like how this is basically an unbroken shot that transitions through everything in Charlemagne's life. I feel like this is so much more entertaining and creative than just having a talking head. As entertaining as that could be in its own right, I feel like something like this is more creative and interesting to see. Number 5. Three Kingdoms. The first of the historical titles that blurs the lines between what you would expect from a historical title. I knew from the cinematic what this was going to be in terms of blurring the lines between historical and romance. Putting that aside, on its own merits and for what it was trying to be, this is actually a really solid announcement cinematic. This was Creative Assembly's first foray into China, and I feel like this was a very solid start for that. You know what I mean? Like, we get everything you'd want. You get the vibe of a country that's tearing itself apart in the Civil War. We get a lot of major characters of the romance being prominently featured. There's a lot of emphasis on them as warriors, as commanders. There's a lot of stuff there. The music in this is very solid. The action in this is very solid. Again, the animation, of course, is beautiful. Good or for ill, it conveys everything that the game is going to be. Especially if you were waiting for a Chinese Total War title for like 18 years, I can see this being satisfying. Even if it's not an era and location I would personally enjoy, I could still appreciate this trailer. Number 4.
The reign of the old shogunate is over.
This is one of my favorites. This is a very, very, very solid trailer. I love how this thing is animated. I love the music. Again, it's impressive how much this conveys. We see like a divided Japan on the map, and then we see like this brutal siege in the winter setting. It's beautifully animated. We have a duel scene here that's very well choreographed and animated. And I also like how it transitions from like a winter setting to like a spring setting with like these cherry blossoms everywhere. I also like how even though this samurai is clearly a little bit smug and arrogant, and even though this is a warlord who's the aggressor trying to conquer this place, they still seem to have more honor than the defenders. And I feel like it adds a little bit of nuance here, where it's like this guy is the aggressor, but he has honor. I feel like it's a very interesting circumstance to see. And even though we're only focusing on a single siege, it still manages to successfully convey everything that is going to be in Shogun 2. And again, like always, the music is great, animation looks great, it's a solid trailer, it's worthy of being in the top 5. Number 3. Out of all the trailers in the Three Kingdoms catalog, I think Mandate of Heaven might be the best one by far. It has some of the best music. It's one of the few trailers that has some really solid pathos. I love the sense of scale and sweeping shots. It's a really, really damn good trailer. But the thing is, it gets even deeper than that, because if you look at the comments on the video, you can find several really good comments that go into it way deeper than I ever could. Seriously, like there's 2 comments of note in particular. You're gonna see them on screen. Pause them if you want to read them more, but the cliff notes, there's a lot of good symbolism with the juxtaposition of objects like an empty bowl. There's a lot of juxtaposition with color, with the color of the sky, with the azure sky representing the Han, the yellow sky representing the yellow turbans. There's a lot of subtle nods to various dynamics with the various characters and players involved. It's an incredible piece of analysis. There's a lot of meaning with the lyrics and the song as well, as I understand it. So there's a lot of stuff to digest with this trailer. When you put it all together, you have a trailer that is absolutely worthy of being in the top 3. The only reason why it's not higher is because the other trailers are just that much better. Number 2. I feel like there is a certain poetry to be had here, where the best expansion pack for Total War of all time also has the best trailer for itself as well. The people making this trailer had an uphill battle because this expansion was huge. There's never going to be an expansion like this again. 4 different campaigns, a lot of new units, some new features, etc. That is a lot of stuff to talk about here. And yet, this trailer manages to find a way to cover everything in a short, concise manner, while also being cinematic, dynamic, and entertaining. It's action-packed, it's brutal, it does everything. The fact that this trailer covers everything in such a manner, while still being cinematic and enjoyable, it makes this trailer surprisingly strong. The music is very solid. I love War of Kings. It's one of the best tracks from Medieval 2. Seeing it used here is great. What else is there to say, my friends? So before we get to number 1, I have a long list of honorable mentions to get through, because there are a lot of good trailers that just for one reason or another don't make the cut. But they're still very solid, so I want to talk about them briefly here. And we're going to be going from oldest to newest. First of all, we have the Rome Total War Barbarian Invasion trailer. This is a very solid trailer. It's a very enjoyable in-engine battle scene. that's action-packed. The use of the Jeff Van Dyke music is great. If this was a top 15, this would probably be on that. The reason why it's not on the list is because it is just an in-engine battle scene. Aside from the units looking different and briefly showing the swimming thing, this tells me nothing about how this is going to be different from Rome Total War. Like I said, accurately selling what it's going to be about is important. On a related note, let's go to the Medieval 2 with the E3 trailer. Again, same thing. It's an in-engine battle scene, and that's it. Again, we see a lot of good stuff in this trailer, but that's still not enough. The Gold trailer does everything this trailer does, except better. Next up, we have the Napoleon Total War announcement cinematic. While a talking head is a bit obtuse, this is a very well animated trailer. It looks very nice. I also do like how we do get some other visuals in the background as well with Napoleon. Again, it's a good trailer, and if this was a top 15, this would be on there. But alas, here we are. Shogun 2, we have this first gameplay trailer. Again, nothing too much to say, it's an in-engine battle scene again, but it's a very well made version of this, and I feel like this is an interesting stark contrast to Rome 2's first gameplay trailer, which barely showed gameplay at all. People wanted something like this, except with Rome, and we didn't get it. And speaking of, let's get to Rome 2. I'm sure some people are disappointed that there were no Rome 2 trailers in the top 10. Well, and that's simple. Most of the Rome 2 trailers are either mid or just okay. There's a lot of doofy things that haven't aged well, and a lot of the Rome 2 trailers really do feel try-hardy, especially in retrospect. But there are a couple good trailers that I won't mention here. For the pre-release Rome 2 Hannibal trailer, I thought was a very creative trailer that had a good excuse for naturally talking about stuff with the campaign map, with the Roman senators discussing where Hannibal was gonna land, being like a vector that was used to show off a bunch of stuff. It's a very solid trailer, and this trailer almost ended up in the top 10. It just got pushed out by a couple trailers that were better. Again, if this was a top 15, it would have been on there. We also have the Caesar and Gaul trailer. This trailer accurately conveys a lot of what the DLC was going to be about, and I also love the clash between Caesar and Vercingetorix here. It goes surprisingly hard. The Wrath of Sparta trailer is also surprisingly strong. Like, the way this trailer uses the combat animations from Rome 2 and Attila, like, this is probably some of the best editing of those combat animations, and it's just really, really snazzy. Moving on to Total War Attila, we have the Red Horse trailer. Again, this is a very solid trailer, but I think the Black Horse trailer does everything that except better. It is cool seeing how the Sassanids look in the game, at least. Thrones of Britannia, we have the Alfred the Great trailer and the Welsh trailers. Again, these are pretty solid trailers. I just feel like the Northumbria trailer is just simply better. I do like how the Welsh trailer in particular kind of like subverts what you'd expect once again by having a trailer focusing more on building and less on fighting. Three Kingdoms has a bunch of solid trailers in it. The Cao Cao trailer, the Dong Zhao trailer, and the World Betray trailer. They are all solidly animated, edited, and well put together. And lastly, the 15 Years trailers. Once more, if I was doing like a top 15, these guys are probably on here. They're a very good summation of what the Total War franchise was about at that point. Again, I just feel like this other trailers was just simply better. Now, you might be wondering, Peter, am I going to mention anything about Troy or Pharaoh? As a matter of fact, no, I'm not. Because while there's a couple trailers from Troy that are okay, for the most part, I'm just not a big fan of how they did it. Like, the Pharaoh announcement cinematic might be the worst announcement cinematic of any Total War game. But I digress. Let's get to our number one. Now, I know at face value this might seem kind of strange, because I said several times that trailers need to be more of an in-engine battle scenes in order to be on this list. So I'm sure some people are probably thinking, if that's the case, Peter, then why is this trailer not only on the list, but number one? The answer is simple. This isn't just an in-engine battle scene. This is the in-engine battle scene. Like, it's important to recognize that back in 2003, 2004, when this trailer came out, this was huge. Rome Total War put Creative Assembly on the map, and this trailer was a crucial part of it. Seriously, you didn't see large-scale, real-time battles like this. This was huge. This was brand new. This was unprecedented. You know what I mean? And this is crucial for what sold the game. So in other words, this is the only time when an in-engine battle scene fulfills both criteria that I'm looking for. This is a well-edited battle scene. The music by Jeff Van Dyke is spot on. and you can recreate everything in this trailer, which is something that later trailers can't say. I don't know if it's just me, but has anyone else noticed the weird resemblance between this trailer and like the Siege of Minas Tirith? I should be known that Return of the King had just come out at the time, but seriously stop me if you heard this one. We have a large army of a bunch of different enemies sieging Rome, prominently focusing on catapults and siege towers. We have cavalry reinforcements coming in to try and lift the siege, only to be countered by pachyderms. Again, I noticed a bunch of differences, like we briefly cut to the Battle of Cannae and the Romans also have catapults, but the resemblance is certainly strange, isn't it? So yeah, this is the gold standard for Total War trailers. I don't think a trailer is ever going to be as good as this again because, well, Total War is an established brand. A trailer like this can only truly work once. So yeah, those are my top 10 trailers. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with what I said, but if nothing else, I hope you can understand where I'm coming from with this. If people like this and want to see like a top 10 worst trailers list, let me know. I might get on that. But until then, I will see you guys later.